Around joining us now, distinguished senator from Oklahoma, Republican Tom Coburn, and also with us right here in studio, CNBC contributors Jared Bernstein, who used to be a Democrat, and Jim Pethokoukis.
Wait a minute.
Party ID, hard to say. Mr. Coburn, Tom Coburn, Senator Coburn, welcome, sir. I understand you are holding up a continuing resolution. What is on your mind? What's bothering you about the CR?
Well, it's not what's bothered me, Larry. We got this bill at 9:45 last night, and they wanted to start offering amendments on it this morning, and they wanted an agreement to do that, and it's almost 600 pages long. It's $1 trillion plus in spending, and, you know, maybe we ought to be given 24 hours to read a bill to figure out what kind of amendments we want to offer, and whether or not we think that this is the process we want to go forward with. And what about, are we going to have amendments? You know, this bill, I can tell you, we're just about finished. We'll be finished late tonight. We'll have some amendments to offer. And we've already told them we'd let the bill go. If they want to work tonight, I'll go down there and work tonight. But the problem is what happens in Washington way too often is you get an agreement to move forward on a bill that you don't know anything about, and it's spending $1 trillion, and we don't have any idea at the time they asked for the permission to go forward with it what was in it.
Sounds like Obamacare. Reminds me of Obamacare. We didn't know what was in that bill until long after the bill was passed. You're saying with this continuing resolution to keep the government open, we don't really know what's in there, do we?
This isn't a continuing resolution. This is an omnibus spending bill. It has 5 appropriation bills on it and then a small section for the rest of the government. So it's an omnibus appropriation bill. We should make sure we understand that's what it is. And there's all sorts of authorizations in it, and what I would tell are earmarks in it. There's also money stolen from the Victims' Compensation Fund, which aren't tax dollars. So there's a lot of problems with it. We'd like to be able to address those with amendments. And now that we've had a chance to get through the bill, we'll be offering those.
Senator Coburn, can you give me a quick take on the Democratic budget about which we were just speaking? Lots of spending, lots of taxing, and no entitlement reform. What you thinking about this budget?
Well, I think it truly represents the views of most of the Democrats in the Senate, not all of them. Number 2 is probably to stake out a position to the left of Obama so that if we can actually reach an agreement on something, he looks central and they look to the left, and then they can support it. You know, I think some of it's positioning. But, you know, our problem, if you look, the government's grown 89% in the last 10 years, and median family incomes have declined 5%. I don't think the problem's taxing more. I think it's spending.
Jared Bernstein, I just think you can say that the Democrats make Obama look centrist, and I believe that. And I said that tongue-in-cheek, but I actually believe that. On the other hand, they've got a lot of Democrats running for re-election in 2014. I do not believe this left-wing budget will get voted in.
Look, I think, but with respect to Bob, I think the way you describe the budget is really very, very misleading, especially the tax increases. And I want to get Senator Coburn's view on this. I mean, I learned a lot about spending through the tax code, which is tax expenditures, through reading a document called Back in Black by none other than Senator Tom Coburn. And on the cover of that document, at least on the website, it says, we're going to cut $1 trillion in spending by cutting spending through the tax code. The same trillion, the same tax code, the same expenditures the Democrats are going after. Plus, you completely haven't said one word about all the spending cuts. In fact, you just said spending increases. There are spending cuts.
Nobody can find them. Nobody can find them.
Let me say,
where are the entitlement cuts?
That's a good question. But the senator should really speak to this issue because he has been a leader on cutting tax expenditures.
Senator Coburn, go ahead. Please answer Jared Bernstein. We know there are tax expenditures, but I thought tax reform, Senator, was to lower the rates and then get rid of the loopholes.
It is, and he's right. We listed $1 trillion worth of tax earmarks. That's what they are. They're earmarks. But we did that in the conjunction of $8 billion in spending cuts. $8 trillion in spending cuts. So, you know, will I agree I'd love to reform the tax code to get us growing, but if the president and the Democrats will agree to $8 trillion in spending cuts, I'll happily agree to $1 trillion in tax earmark elimination.
Jimmy Pethokoukis, Jared has made a great point, but he's only given us half a loaf when it comes to tax reform. He's just given us half a loaf. Can you help me on this?
Listen, if you go with this plan and you use all this tax expenditure reform to pay down the deficit, forget it. Then those tax rates are going to be locked at those top levels. That tax reform should be used for lowering some of those tax rates, which have been raised way too much, and you're never going to get it. And to answer Bob's question, where's the entitlement reform? Here's the big secret. Democrats don't think we need entitlement
at all,
or not very much
at all.
They think the health care problem has been solved basically, and also about Medicare reform is just a waste of time. They don't believe it anymore. Jared might, but the rest of them don't.
I think Jared actually brings up a real potent political point, because Democrats are going to go out there in 2013 and 2014 and say, we're going to slam the corporations, we're not going to touch your entitlements, and they think they can win seats in the House and the Senate by being all about tax reform.
This is left-wing populism.
Sure.
Basically, this is not what you're describing. What you're describing, Jared, on the tax expenditures, and you are right. Okay, and I used to put those books together
Senator Coburn
when I worked at
is a
OMB,
leader on this.
and the Senator Coburn is the leader on this. But it's a pot. They're going to go after the corporations, and they're going to go after the upper end loopholes without any offsetting balance on lower.
No, I don't think that's right. I think
that's the big issue here.
Look, people are starting out where they're starting out, but I think if particularly look at the president's corporate tax reform, he buys some lower rates by closing some of the loopholes, but it can't be, as Jimmy was suggesting,
taxes on corporations too.
It can't. Well, it's cutting tax expenditures. It's something Senator Coburn has said. There's $1 trillion.
I want to go. You know what?
And some of it has to go for deficit reduction.
Totally want to have the corporate tax reform discussion, because I agree with you. The president does from time to time, even though he wants to penalize companies offshore, which is completely wrong. But to have corporate tax reform and to get to a 28% rate would be totally pro-growth. And the bells and whistles can be taken.
But he should get to a 25% rate, which is the OECD average, and he can't do it because he wants to use that for rate.
So you guys are on board with revenue.
No self-respecting supply sider. No, revenue neutral. No self-respecting supply sider disagrees. Lower the rates on the one side and get rid of the loopholes on the other. You'll have a clean code, revenue neutral, but the lower rates are pro-growth.
So revenue positive,
Senator,
and we're okay.
No, revenue neutral. Tom Coburn, Senator Coburn, thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Jared Bernstein, Jimmy Pethokoukis, and Robert Costa. Now, he's one of the biggest rising